testing the waters for that. So I think that has a lot to say about this particular model as understanding we can't be effective just with information. We got to understand it and make knowledge of it, and then that will give us power to make change, and the reward is driven in most cases about the change itself and how good you feel about it. But the higher that opportunity for rewards, the more likely we are to continue to generate the information and knowledge. Another concept that we could talk about for a little while. In building knowledge, and we say knowledge gives us power, not information, how do we build organizational knowledge? Formal individual knowledge is developed based on each individual's formal training. Obviously, as we get better at what we do, then the knowledge of how to be better and continue to be better is there. Knowledge is developed based on experiences, mental models, and skills that are not formalized or conscious to the individual. This is an important concept here. We have to begin to think about what's this look like to be exemplary? What's this look like to be the highest performing individual we can be? And we have to see that. That's part of Covey's work in looking at what it means to be effective on a day-to-day basis or have habits that leads to effectiveness. We have to create a mental model. We need to have a mental model of what our school is going to look like when it's the best school it can possibly be. It's like a golfer standing behind a golf shot before he hits it. He's actually seeing the ball travel to the spot he wants it to travel to. And there's research to support visualization and what visualization does to us in terms of being able to do things. I had a personal experience when I was coaching football years ago that we went from a pre-game rah-rah kind of atmosphere to one of quiet and meditation, and we would, as coaches, would call out defenses or offensive plays, and each player is required to visualize their job in that particular play or scheme of defense. And it dramatically decreased the number of penalties and mistakes made by players once you went to that visualization. So we must visualize what it means to be good and great and see ourselves in that position so that it becomes part of our mental processes and our thoughts that we're continually motivated and driven to reach that particular model or that particular vision of ourselves. Formal organizational knowledge is developed based on routines, habits, and methods. And we've talked about routines, relationships, and language. The language of learning has to be part of the routine and part of the habits that we have. We get students and teachers and all individuals talking about the same language of learning, whatever that language may be. We can pick a language and be consistent with that and make sure it's theoretically sound, and that language will drive what we do on a daily basis. Developed based on collective habits and patterns that are not formalized. Habits and patterns. What do we do? How do we behave on a day-to-day basis that identifies what the learning culture is? Empowering organizations. Part of your action plan. Leadership. A leadership question is, does the leadership in the school reflect both a deep understanding of contemporary practices, including that of distributed leadership, involving faculty and other stakeholders, as well as a total commitment to the success at the highest level for all students? Can you check yourself off? Can you give yourself a 1 to 5 on your leadership behavior towards an empowering organization? And there's some sub-questions we could look at, we won't for the sake of time, but there are a list of things we could begin to look at. So look at your leadership now that you're working for. Do they have a deep understanding of that? And do they demonstrate distributed leadership? In the general organization, we've talked about those structures in several slides. Is it organized in such a manner as to assure a rigorous and relevant education for all students with that social equity that we talked about for all students? Our curriculum, does the overall curriculum mine a contemporary organization in a way that focuses on high levels of success for all students? Does the instructional program mirror best practices, not just in middle grades education, on how that showed up, but does it reflect best practices in all grade levels of education? Professional development and staff utilization, we can ask ourselves, is there an effective process of teacher recruitment, successful means of teacher retention? Are we doing things to sustain where we are based on the good people we already have? In general management, are we organized and managed in an effective way which reflects a total commitment to supporting teachers? This is a qualitative kind of question that we'd ask ourselves as leaders of an organization, which we're moving them in a direction of sustained quality performance. Organized and managed. And we have to understand what that means to be organized and managed in that way. Are we involved in the community, and not bringing necessarily people into the school to do activities, but is the entire community aware of practices and procedures? Do they understand the data and what that data means and where we're headed and what do we want to be? So sort of a summary of this whole conversation. Organizational efficacy. Collective self-efficacy focuses on individual and group contributions to the sustained learning experience supported by principles of empowerment and accountability. High-quality teachers are those who have content knowledge, ability to engage students, and are dedicated to improvement of the organization. Not only dedicated, but collaborate in that improvement. Collective efficacy and necessary behaviors for learning success encourage autonomy and interdependency through the organization. Leaders should examine social systems that include opportunities for vicarious experiences enhanced with modeling and collective interactions. We've seen some of this language in your particular checklist that you've created. But that's a lot in a very short period of time. We do this to get us to think about how to build change within the individual, thus or give us an opportunity to build change in the collective group through an understanding of what it means to be empowered, what it means to be striving for the highest level of performance that we can reach within ourselves. We can apply that to our everyday lives and our church behaviors and our spouse behaviors, our marriage, our family. We can apply these same concepts in terms of efficacy, not only in the work we do,